The characters have defeated the dragon and are looting the hoard. This is the perfect opportunity for a little bit of lore building. After all, treasure represents what is valued in a given region, as does the currency. Compare, for example, the communist iconography of Soviet money versus the flowers, cranes, and entrepreneurs, scientists, and educators of Japanese currency. Thus, a coin can be used to introduce what different cultures value, helping players to get a feel for the areas they are visiting. Coins can also tell players about the history of lost nations and even information on how a still existing nation has changed. Consider the early penny in America with an eagle on the front and flowers on the back, then 100 years later with a president and a monument. Societies grow and change, and their currency does with them. During the Middle Ages and early modern, there were many different coins, from the stylized Saxon coins of dragons and bearded men to the angel coins that were used as good luck charms in the Middle Ages, or the coins from Islamic regions that had only script on them because they wouldn't print people or animals on coins. So, yes, finding a coin in a hoard of treasure could be an opportunity to say something about the world, especially if you happen to be creating a visual story, such as a film or a game, in which they could provide a bit of lore that could give your audience a chance to ponder your world and possibly piece together clues about it. Outside of coins, there are many other treasures. Obviously, not every object in a story has to have some deep meaning that you mention or even hint at. Some people just sit in a chair or drink from a cup. But a description is a chance to build lore. As such, every described object has two aspects. First, there are the audience's preconceived notions about the object, that is, the message the object will automatically convey to the audience. For example, if there's a cottage in the woods with a large cauldron bubbling in the corner, many, if not most people, will presume there's a witch or magic involved. However, for a long time, most foods were cooked in cauldrons in large parts of Europe. So, in places like Western England and Wales, this scene would be more in common with shepherds and cowherds that live in the wilderness with their animals for part of the year than with witches. Obviously, you can take advantage of these automatic associations because if you want someone to think witch, you can include a cauldron for this very purpose. On the other hand, if you don't want people to think witch in the first place and don't want to try and explain around it, including a cauldron could cause complications. Or if you include a cauldron, you must do so with some form of explanation of what it means in your world. This leads to the second point. There's the description you give of the object and the way characters react to it. In other words, the things you teach your audience to associate with the object. For example, the fact that the characters in the Lord of the Rings movies are impressed and even awed by Mithril and talk about its worth lets us realize how special the shirt Frodo is wearing is. Then, when Frodo survives the attack by the cave troll, we come to understand how impressive Mithril is. Objects themselves can say something about the culture they came from. For example, chess and tables were fashionable aristocratic pastimes in medieval and Renaissance Europe, a hallmark of nobility, at which women were expected to be adepts as much as men. Many knights boasted of their knightly skill at playing chess. From this we see the importance not only of leisure, but of the ability to think strategically. Thus the nobles of this era wanted people to know that they played these games, and so displayed them, made from pearl, silver, ivory, and other valuables. Also at this time, beds were often the most valuable thing people owned. This was because of people's growing obsession with health and emotional well-being that a good night's sleep was said to provide. Also interesting is the fact that Vikings valued combs and were often buried with them because among Norse people, looks were important, and there are many descriptions of them being obsessed with grooming themselves. After all, it could be argued that one of the primary concerns of the Norse religion was being perceived positively by your peers. For example, Odin advises that he is happy who himself obtains fame and kind words. Or later, cattle die, kindred die, every man is mortal. But the good name never dies of one who has done well. Yes, obtaining glory and honor often involved battle, but this was advice also for those who worked trades. In any case, the Vikings who conquered huge swaths of Britain were known for being obsessed with combing their hair, and it's likely because they valued what people thought of them. Obviously, people wouldn't necessarily know what every item in a treasure hoard meant right away, but that is what lore in a game often is. The hints of a larger world and larger meanings that people can piece together, look up, or ask more about if they want to.